Hey everybody, it's Billy Watkins with the Premier Power Hour podcast, and we've got a couple of guests today. Some very special people that are
yes, we're very special.
very special, completely tied to the Premier Power Hour podcast. We got Chaz, Rao.
Very good. No one ever gets that, but you did.
And
after practicing.
and we've got Steve
Hall.
Yes. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having us, Billy.
I don't know. I didn't set this up, but yeah, someone else did. But here you are,
Yeah.
and we're going to make it happen. Who are you, and what do you do for the Premier Power Hour podcast?
Do you want a little bit of that, a little bit of history, or how do you want us? How do you want the answer, Bill?
However you want to give it. I'm easy.
Well, I handle the. I'll give you about what I do, then we can talk about the history of where we both came from.
Yep.
I handle all the digital media here, from podcasting, photography to video. Anything in those capacities for Premier is what I do for the company.
Very cool. And how about you, Steve?
I am a writer and market researcher, and so I write blogs, I do market research, case studies, target assessments, I edit those. And then for this podcast, I do research and I write questions that then you usually ignore.
I've got them laid out here in front of me. I'm going to be diligent in sticking to them. So that's kind of what you're doing here with the Premier Power Hour podcast.
That's correct.
Just rolls right off the tongue. You have interesting backgrounds, both of you. Let's hear a little bit about that. Where'd you get started?
Well, I first got started doing the podcasting. I remember when it first came out, I was working for a company here in Louisville that produces the greatest 2 minutes in sports, wink, wink.
Yep.
And so we launched the first podcasting initiative based on a CRM program, based upon different levels. Like if you're a wealthy Will, we would send you the real big tips and all this stuff. And so that's where I got my feet wet with podcasting. And then I ventured off, and then that was actually the very first in the horse racing industry.
Yep.
And then after that, I ventured off, and I was doing yoga, and I launched a channel called Yoga Amazing, and it ended up becoming the first health podcast, one of the first health podcasts, the first yoga podcast. Was on the homepage of iTunes numerous times, was in Shape Magazine, Parenting Magazine, and today...
Well, you were just doing yoga.
Just doing yoga.
You were one day downward dog, and then you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, then it went from 0 to 24 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huge.
And it's, so, that's kind of the history. There's more, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But it was interesting to be there because the podcast, I was there at the very beginning. I was at the very, very first podcast convention in California. I can't remember. It's a very small city. In fact, we have a warehouse there.
How old would you say the medium of podcasting is at this point?
17, 18,
2005.
2005 is when I started. Okay. So 17 years. So, I've been a part of it from literally the ground zero. And I remember when I was working for that horse racing company, yep. The guy said, well, I don't know what podcasting is. And if I don't know what it is, then it's not going to do anything. And so here we are now. Here I am now working with Premier to produce a podcast. And it's great to have Steve on board because he's a fellow podcaster.
And I'll say two things quickly about what Chaz said. 2009, iTunes 4 allowed people to listen to podcasts. So that was a point at which the medium really started to take off. Yeah. And then Chaz's yoga videos, you can find them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he's very soothing and explains everything.
Nice.
And,
yeah.
People would write to him and say, I've got this issue, what should I do?
Yeah, everything from, yoga for the back, yoga for the neck, yoga for a hangover. You want that one, Billy?
Why would you assume?
Yoga for coffee addictions.
Right. Yeah, coffee for caffeine addiction. That's all I've got.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I built.
We've been doing this for a while. Why have I never checked you out on YouTube with your old yoga videos?
I don't know, because maybe you don't do yoga.
I don't, but I'm doing that as soon as we're done here.
And then you won't find me on YouTube because I was a reporter doing serious stuff for 20 years.
Serious news.
Yeah.
Hard news.
Yeah.
Hard
Television.
News.
He interviewed
criticism.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, so I was a TV critic for 13 years and got to go to LA. Every summer, the networks would have these big press tours where you would go see the fall shows and have these press conferences where you'd interview the stars and go visit sets, and it was awesome.
What's your best brush with greatness? What would you say?
Well, it's funny because it's Drew Carey, and we were at an ABC party, and he was just this regular guy you could hang out with, drink beer, talk sports, and funny, of course, is all get out. Whereas a lot of comedians, if you're with them, they are very consciously on,
right,
and then they're off. And so when I interviewed Jerry Seinfeld one time on the phone, and he was off that day. It was like one of the lamest interviews I've ever done.
And they're naturally
Jerry's
dark
gonna find
people,
this
right?
podcast.
They're just they're not. I don't think they're funny outwardly, and then inside they're just tormented.
They're tormented.
That's how I feel.
But it was really cool because I went to the set of NYPD Blue. Dennis Franz, Sifowitz, if anyone out there remembers NYPD Blue.
Always showing his butt on
Always
TV.
showing his butt on TV, which takes a lot of courage for a guy. But he was walking us around the set, and he goes, "Here's my gun." And he gave me this gun, and it was heavy. It felt like a real gun, but it was made out of rubber.
But looked exactly
But
like
it
the
looked
real-
exactly, yeah.
The magic of television.
Right. So then what Chaz alluded to is my daughter and I have a podcast called Popaholics, Hall, because we're Steve Hall, Kate Hall, dad and daughter.
Play on.
Now I get it.
Now you get it.
Now I get it.
Dad and daughter dish on pop culture over a drink was what we said when we started, because we were always having some alcoholic libation.
Yeah.
Lately we've been taping them like at lunchtime, so we're not drinking.
You can, just iced tea.
Yeah. But we're in our third season. We've got 80-some shows, and we talk about TV, movies, books, music. Kate even knows stuff about fashion, which I'm always like such an idiot when it comes to that
Still
stuff.
catching up with.
Yeah. So those are called pants? It's that kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you don't wear pants that much. I know, and if I know anything about do you have a favorite? Anything that stands out with Popaholics? One that you really feel like you've given something back to society?
Whoa,
in your discussion?
That's a big question there, Billy.
You didn't even write that one.
Well,
by the way.
I didn't write that question. The interesting thing to me has been my daughter Kate. She and I would always talk about this stuff, before we had a podcast. Okay, we're both huge pop culture fans. What amazed me was when we started doing the podcast, she is so articulate, and her opinions are so well thought out. I sort of thought, well, it's going to be this TV critic and his daughter, but really the daughter's the star, and I'm just kind of along for the ride.
You I'm sure provide the
Comic relief.
the comic relief and the industry, expertise
There you
that
go.
kind of round it out. One thing we didn't talk about you started out, you have a music background. You were a musician.
Well, we're both musicians. Mine
Okay.
started out in the 80s when I had the long Sammy Hagar Chazio hairdo.
Nice.
And we got to play CBGBs twice in New York City, that's where the Police and the Ramones and Blondie all played. We had a music video air on MTV, and we never got signed to a major deal. We got an independent label. But, we
Where were you? Was it late on a Sunday night? Was 120 minutes or something kind of airing?
it was on
That's where
120 minutes, right. Very good. You,
I know.
you remember
I go
that.
back. I go back.
You go back. And
yeah.
So we got to, we never got the major deal. I remember one time we got to go to Elektra Records, and the guy, we got there and we're sitting at his desk, and he was looking at us, and he was looking at the media kit, looked at us, and we made up a fake management company, Cleaver Productions, like Beaver Cleaver.
Right.
And he goes, he had his paper, and he goes, okay, you're the management and the band. Typically I would throw you out, but you did such a job getting all the way up here. Let's talk.
You got to fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And then he was on the phone with someone who was just breaking out. Can you hold on a minute? Okay, yeah. Let the song go. He's talking about Rick Ashley. Never gonna give you up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I played a lot. Then I went solo, and I got to play at the Easter Egg Roll for the Clintons for 2 years.
How do you get that gig?
You
you weren't the bunny. You were playing
I was performing,
music.
and I got to
Okay.
hang out with Justin Timberlake and Jamie Lee Curtis, and The guy who produces the Beatles festival in here in Louisville, what's it called?
Yeah, what is that called? The live or the
On the river. Beatle something on the river.
Something on the river, yes.
something on the
But
river.
he actually he was the producer of that show. I don't know how I got into it, but I got into there 2 years, and it was great, to play on the lawn. And then we got to go there the day before, and you're hanging out with these Secret Service guys, and they got these big Uzis on their side, and they pop up out of the grass. And
It didn't make you nervous at all.
Oh, no,
What
it
do you
didn't.
What do you play? What do you play? Where
I
were you
play
doing?
guitar and sing.
Okay.
So I was never the lead guitarist. I was mainly the lead singer, songwriter. Yeah,
Fronting the band.
fronting the band, tousling that hair, and throwing
You
my
should have
Fender
seen those
Telecaster.
photos of him in that hair. Whoa.
Yeah, you should throw up an old
interject
picture.
one, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And see, while he
little
was
B-roll of your old.
Maybe I'll just put it right here over my face.
and while
So
he
we'll do
was
that.
scaling the heights of greatness, I was playing bars, most notably with a band called the Naked Bacon Band, because
I
name
love
two
that name.
things that everybody likes: naked and bacon.
Nudity and bacon.
The greatest band to ever come out of Northern Ohio, named after fried meat.
I love it. That's your
Thank
claim
you.
to fame.
That's my tagline. I came up with that.
What were you playing? What were you
I
doing?
am like him. I'm a rhythm guitarist and a singer-songwriter,
But you play mandolin.
but I also play mandolin and bass and ukulele and the zither and the harmonica.
Wow, a man of many.
Jack
many
of
talents.
all trades,
Jack
master, of
none.
none. Yes.
So look, you never knew you were around this much influence.
this much talent either. We've talked about it a little bit, but the podcast medium has changed quite a lot since you've started. Here you are now working for a private company,
Yeah.
a corrugated manufacturer.
Yeah,
and
I remember when they hired me on, I was like, I got the job, and I think Steve may feel the same way. I go, what? How many podcasts can I do about a box or corrugated?
Right.
But I realized that there is a lot more here than I think we both anticipated on the amount of people, knowledge, the business angle of everything, and how much, like a person like you, working with the bin boxes.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew what they kind of were, but I didn't know.
Right.
So the amount of people that takes to run this ship is quite incredible, and so we are fortunate to be able to create content to give people not only a better understanding about the company, but a better understanding about the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so many interesting people work here, and it's just been fascinating to explore all their roles, and Premier's culture. That
Certainly.
very much of a team effort, and everybody helping everybody, as numerous people have said on the podcast. So,
I mean,
great
now
place.
just showing the progressiveness of the company just by producing a podcast that shows you the direction and focus of where the company wants to be going in new directions.
So, have you checked out this is a part of your job? Have you checked out podcasts from other industry leaders, other folks in the packaging industry, and so if somebody else has it, kind of juxtapose that with ours. What are we doing different?
I would say that a big difference for us is the focus on our people.
Yeah.
A lot of the other ones tend to be more focused on broad industry trends, and very, very specific information about the packaging industry.
Right.
What else?
Yeah,
would you
I
add?
agree with you 100% because most of the other ones, it's not really about the company. It's about here's what the industry's doing, but we're able to leverage, Claudia, who does our luxury packaging. So instead of just talking about luxury packaging as a whole, we're able to talk about the industry, but also, hey, this is what we do. So we're able to sell without selling, and so that's I think the powerful tool of what we're doing is that we're focusing and projecting our people into what we're doing here,
I'm in the middle of it, and maybe I don't always have a big picture perspective because I'm sitting in the chair, just worried, how big a dork I look like, right? This is being broadcast to tens of
tens.
But what from me notwithstanding, what do you hope our customers and employees take away from this thing?
I think the takeaway for me that hopefully that they're getting is that Premier is a fantastic company to work for. It's a fantastic company to work with, and that we're an industry leader.
I would say the same, and I just want to interject here. There's more than 1 million podcasts out there.
Wow.
Most of them don't last beyond 3 episodes, and we're at what now?
We're at 27, 28 or something, aren't we?
28, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing well. We're doing well. And everything that Chaz said about the strength of the podcast, I agree. And I just think also your personality, Billy. You bring you bring knowledge, but also a certain humorous approach to the
Angry
to
happiness
Smart aleck.
approach. Yeah.
You feel anger?
The angry happy Billy.
It's,
And
a
that's
few
a-
more coffees in, I will not be as angry. I will not be as angry. I love, I don't have any shtick with me. I don't have any kind of good thing to finish this off. But I feel I'm surrounded by a couple of guys who have had pretty cool careers, have done a wide, varied stuff in their lives. What kind of advice, what kind of knowledge can you impart on me before we go? Because I'm interested. What do you have a mantra with your yoga or anything like that? Anything you want to?
The classic close. No, the classic open of the Yoga Amazing podcast was, remember to breathe, relax, and have fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that's
was
There's
my
your bumper sticker.
Yeah.
That's.
Breathe, relax, have fun was always mine. And I think the thing that, what I'm happy about here is that we're consistent. The quality and level of what we do is top notch.
Yeah.
And that's because they invested in not only having people like Steve and I here, but also in the correct equipment and bringing in top notch people like yourself.
There you go.
I was here, remember? I was here in
Billy, can you do
in a
this thing as
cubicle.
well? My mantra in life, I picked up from a friend of mine. She was telling me about going skydiving, and I was like, I could never skydive. I would just be so terrified something would go wrong. And she said, Steve, you survive every challenge but the last,
one.
which I think is great advice. And I try to, because I tend to worry about stuff. I tend to just kind of go, you survive every challenge but the last. Just keep going. And then you're supposed to ask me,
Did you actually jump out of the plane?
no.
You did not. Did you? But here you are.
But here I am.
That could have been, at the end of the day, that could have been your last
It
challenge.
could have been my last challenge. Yes.
And you lived to do this. This is your next challenge. Breathe, relax, and have fun.
Yeah.
Just please remember that. This was a good time, gentlemen.
was.
I'm glad to have
Absolutely.
talked to you. It's good to have you on this side of the camera.
Yeah, they don't know.
Not
We always talk to Billy off camera and all that stuff, and he's got such a great sense of humor. So to interact with him on camera, we can just prod him the whole time. That makes it fun for us.
Well, that's good. I'm glad we could all have a good time. And until next time, this is Billy Watkins with the Premier Power Hour podcast with Steve, with Chaz. Thank you, guys.
Do you have comments, questions, or ideas about this topic? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Please visit primpack.com/podcast to let us know what you think. Thanks.